Now, every moment, and this might be a revelation to some of you, you all have a brain. It's in here, you can't see it, but it's inside your head, don't drill. And that brain is divided into two halves called cerebral hemispheres. You can't quite see it here because this is just looking at it sideways, so eyes would be here and so on. That's the back of the brain, and that goes into the spinal cord. But, that's copied over on the other side, and the brain is divided in two. And those two hemispheres have different worldviews. That's the main thing. There was this idea back in the day when Bob started out that the left was the logical, analytical part, the right was the creative and the subjective part, essentially, the emotional part. And so that's how they operated. But, neuroscience has moved on since then. That's not true. It's not the main difference between the two, but there is a split. And that split is very deliberate. So they have different functions, but mainly they have different worldviews. The left brain's worldview is that your world is made of objects and categories. Everything here is an object. And so I'm a subject observing a world of objects. I'm the only subject here. Now, from your position, you're the subject observing a world of objects. And each moment, you're taking in this flow of information and object matching in your left brain. So your left brain says, I've not seen that chair before, but I know it's a chair. So I can go into a room and I know how that functions, even though I've never experienced that before. So it's very useful to have a left brain because it allows us to function quite quickly in this reality. But what it does is, it means that you're disconnected from what's happening in the here and now. So the left brain doesn't really operate in the present. It's always in the past. Sometimes around about sort of 300-400 milliseconds in the past, but it's always past because it's always comparing to previous bits of data, autobiographical memories, and existing categories. Now, what this means as well for yourself is that the left brain doesn't think you can change, and it thinks you're a thing. Okay, so this becomes problematic because, and I'll give you so as well as being a trainer for the Monroe Institute, I'm also a psychotherapist, and I train people to become psychotherapists for the UKCP pathway. And one of the main things of working with clients in therapy is that you help them to sort of break this black and white thinking, and some of that black and white thinking is very much on the self. They think, everything that happened in the past has brought me to this moment, and this is where I am, and I'm stuck. And it's always going to be like that, and I'm screwed. And you go, well, actually, if you see yourself in that left brain worldview, then yes, that's how it's going to look, because the past led to this moment. But you could say that from every moment, right? So who you were 5 or 10 years ago is very different to who you're going to be in 5 or 10 years' time. Your left brain can't process that. Because all it will do about your future is take the past and project it. So the left brain is really bad at knowing the present and really bad at knowing what the future is, because all it does is project the past. So that's where anxiety comes from, and stress and everything else. That's what your left brain will know. So if you start to shift towards the right, though, then we have a different worldview completely. The right brain sees you as a process, a flow of experiences. So this is the 11 million bits. It doesn't see you as a thing at all. So this is a process of becoming and never arriving. And isn't that great? And all the mystical traditions that talk about, enlightenment and so on, describe exactly the worldview of the right brain. Everything's interconnected, everything's flowing. I recognize my space within it, and I'm a flowing process within that as well. So there is an I of sorts, but it's very fluid. It's a lot more relaxed than the left brain's I, which has to do a lot of things to be meaningful. So one of the beautiful things about your brain is that it can be reconfigured. And there's the thing called neuroplasticity. And when you look at brain waves, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment, we've got 86 billion neurons singing at any moment, and it's usually cacophony, which looks pretty wild. And then you can slap an EEG on somebody's head. I'll say slap on. That would take maybe about 4 hours or something to have that. There's certain systems that are a lot faster than this. But, you can measure an EEG. Who's had an EEG on the head? Yeah, okay, it takes a while, right, to add it. When you look at what your brain waves are doing, essentially it's like having little microphones outside of a football stadium. And what you're trying to do with an EEG is work out what's going on inside the football stadium by the sound that's coming off, because your brain gives, each neuron gives off really little electrical signals that can be measured on the scalp and massively amplified. But the other thing is that your brain waves oscillate. So we have these cycles per second. And right now, if you're paying attention, then you'll be somewhere in the low beta frequencies. And what that means is that that's nice. I'll go to the next bit. There we go. You know, if you're in beta, you know, your brainwaves are pretty fast, right? And this is what it would look like on an EEG. And so that's pretty fast and a nice concentration band if it's in the lower frequencies. Once you start getting into higher beta, that's a stress response, typically. A lot of our society operates within a stressful beta frequency. And what that means is that it's hard to concentrate. You're triggering the sympathetic branch and typically actually even the dorsal vagal system. So we start to get into that fight or flight mode, and if overextended, we start to get into helplessness and hopelessness modes. So it's very much left brain feeling here, which is all about fight or flight. And you know, the beauty of what we're going to be doing today, and you'll see that there's a speaker here and a speaker there, we're going to be playing particular sounds. And that's what Bob Monroe discovered, that you could play particular sounds to a brain. And what that will do is it will gently start to move, depending on your aims, people's brain waves, wherever they're starting from, to a specific band, or at least an aggregated band that you're targeting. So if you want to get somebody to sleep, which was that first problem that Bob encountered, then you'll want somebody to be in delta, right? So you start to play things to them through sound, headphones or speakers separated left and right. That will start to entrain a delta frequency, and that will put them to sleep. If you want to go for an out-of-body experience, you might want to target somewhere in the region of a low theta, probably supported with some gamma frequencies as well, and then that will help them to recognize and be conscious within an out-of-body experience, or at least a phased experience of being somewhere else, and so on. So throughout the last 50 years, we've been tweaking our technology, our sound technology, to help people to move through different states of consciousness. Some people want to have out-of-body experiences and the more rarefied altered states experiences, and we can start to target those. Some people want to know how to concentrate better, so we can provide concentration signals or relaxation signals that will help them during their day. So if you want to concentrate, relax, and so on, we've got frequencies that help with that, with and without music. And essentially what we're doing here is really reinventing the wheel digitally, because this is a method that's been used for thousands of years. I mean, shamanic drumming and Gregorian chanting and all those Tibetan singing bowls and all that kind of stuff. You're creating resonance that you're helping the person, whoever it is, to get into. And what we're doing is doing that digitally. So the way we do it digitally, and the reason why it actually works so successfully, is that, you know, we can very much pinpoint the frequency that we're after. So with a drum, you can certainly drum fast enough to hit a theta frequency like bum, 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 bum. And you'll hear that, and you're in a cave, and that's echoing it, so you really get the immersion going. But we never had headphones back in the day. You know, all those shamans, they would love to have Bose headphones, I'm sure. Right. So what we will do is imagine that's one channel and this is another one like you're seeing here, because they are separated left and right. And we can play a particular frequency in one channel and another one that's slightly different. And what your brain will hear is not the two separate frequencies. It will synthesize the differential. So here you have 200 hertz versus 204 hertz, and rather than hear ooh, ooh, your brain will start doing like a whoop, 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 whoop. That's not on the track. Okay, the whoop, 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 whoop is not on the track. That's your brain putting the two together, and the difference will be 4 hertz, which is what's referred to as a binaural beat, because you're using 2 ears, binaural, right, to hearing, to create this beat frequency. And after a short amount of time, then, your brain will start to synchronize with one of those states, essentially. So if you play 4 hertz, 200, 204, canceling out, making 4 hertz, that's too low to actually be heard because it's below the hearing threshold, but your brain's making that, and you start to get what's referred to as the frequency following response. And this was something that Bob Monroe discovered with his team. So within about 5 or 10 minutes, your brain waves will start to match what's being facilitated by the audio. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. That's just a natural brain synthesizing response, okay? You probably do things that get you into different states kind of accidentally, because if you're thinking about like a difficult conversation, your boss at work, whoever that you antagonizes you, you will be naturally increasing your beta frequencies and then feel stressed, right? So we know how to tune our brain, but maybe not so consciously. And so this is how we tend to deliver the sounds. We use a mixture of things. So binaurals would typically fit into the frequency modulation. We use isochronic tones, monaural beats. Anybody who's a dork like I am can look at this. And today we'll also be experimenting with, and I say experimenting, I mean we've used it a lot at the Institute, but for you guys, we're going to be using 3D audio, because we're also working with Dolby Atmos, and it means that we can actually move that sound around you in a way that is even more immersive than the standard binaural beats experience. This is a very new technology in terms of how we've been applying it, and yeah, the latest advancements with Dolby have allowed this to happen. Pretty tricky to engineer, but we've got great sound engineers, so hopefully you'll enjoy the experience. The other thing to know is that it's not like we're just playing one frequency. So I showed you the graph with all the different frequencies, but we actually layer them up because we found that certain frequencies support other frequencies, and your brain isn't just saying beta, it's doing everything by different degrees. The only time that you actually get like one rippling through is when you're asleep in deep sleep and you get the delta rhythm running through. That's very synchronous and across the hemispheres. But we like to layer things up. That's all this is showing. It's a heat map of the different frequencies layered up. So sometimes we'll have, like, you know, in this one there's 6, a 7th coming in, 8, 9. So we can really layer up the sound. What that means is, it's like, imagine that shaman drumming away and then adding about another 12 shamans to the mix, and a cave as well, and you've got the idea. All working together, by the way, not just going nuts with the drum. That wouldn't be a good experience.